All right, so in our last discussion, we were going over the dangers of self-interest and reinforcing the need for self-interest. We obviously have an inherent danger of people in power having a self-interest and acting off of that. To counterbalance that, it's up to the citizens to enact in their own self-interest. That's the way that the whole trampoline gets pulled out so that we can all play in the game of republic democracy. Now, one of the things that prevents citizens from acting in their own self-interest is a term that's called power distance. And power distance is something that not very many people understand or have even considered before. But it's one of the most important principles in politics or in engaging in one's own government. Basically, power distance is the perception of an individual of how close or how attainable somebody else in power is. For example, if you are in your local community, most people feel relatively comfortable walking up to their mayor or their county commissioner and saying, "Hi, I'm so-and-so. I'd like to talk to you about this issue or that issue." Or even just saying hi or having the comfort level to say hi and realizing that that individual is attainable, they're reachable, they're somebody that you can literally reach out and touch. Now, as you go up the tier of the political hierarchy, that power distance becomes greater and greater and greater and greater. So the goal for everybody should be to lessen that power distance. Because if we have less of a power distance, we have more of a comfort, more of a perceived ability to approach those people that have the power to make decisions over the laws and the regulations and policies that affect each and every one of us every day. So the idea of power distance is to understand first how it interacts within the political sphere. So again, if you're in your local community, most people have a very short power distance between themselves and their local elected officials, their city council members, their mayors, their county commissioners. Now, as you move up in the political ranks, such as a state representative or a state senator, most people feel a little less comfortable in approaching those individuals. They feel like there's more barriers in their way, and indeed there are. Now you're talking about a more professional staff. You're talking about a staff that's going to be situated in different parts of the state. And you have an individual that could be either at the local office or the Tallahassee office. So you don't know that when you drop by they're going to be there. You don't know that you can call them and get them on the phone. You don't know that they're going to accept a meeting without question or without hesitation, like many of your more local government officials might. So you feel a little less comfortable. You have a little bit more power distance between you and that elected official. So take that up another notch. Going on the same logic, if we're looking at U.S. or federal level positions, many of us are actually quite nervous and quite uncomfortable approaching our congressman. And there's a larger power distance between the state level government officials and the federal level government officials. There's even a big difference between congressmen, members of the House of Representatives, and senators, U.S. senators. Because remember, in the state of Florida we have 27 congressmen, but only 2 senators. So that power distance grows and it grows and it grows and it grows for each level of government that we step up. And of course, even the most professional and active persons involved in politics feel that they have a very large power distance between themselves and the highest level of government, which is the president. Now, there are certain mechanisms and purposeful things that are put in place to increase that power distance. This is a republic democracy, which means that we elect representatives to express our views and our wants and our needs. And because it's a republic democracy, there are certain things that are indeed built in place. As I alluded to before, when you go from county to state, you're now dealing with staffs and different office locations. That increases as you go up the hierarchy in politics. If you are looking at a congressional member of Congress in the House of Representatives, that individual is going to have at least 2 or 3 offices within their district and their Washington, D.C. district, and they're going to have a whole staff full of gatekeepers trying to filter what reaches them. That's a purpose designed, and that is something that helps perpetuate individuals' perceptions of their ability to reach the person in power. So, power distance, although it is an individual's perception of how accessible power is also manipulated by the very makeup and mechanisms of government itself. It is purposeful that staffs are in place. It is purposeful that gatekeepers are in place. It is purposeful that it takes 1, 2, 3 requests to get in front of a congressman, and even more so to get in front of a U.S. senator. And of course, it's difficult for all of us to get into the executive level of power. Unless you know somebody, or unless you've gotten a congressman or a senator to sponsor you, it is very, very difficult to reach that access of the executive level of government. And again, that's the power distance between the individual and the holder of power. What we have to do as engaged citizens, as folks that are acting in our own self-interest, is realize that a majority of our barricades are first produced by ourselves, are first produced by our fears to approach, by our apprehension to engage in the system, by our lack of understanding that these are systematic physical barriers placed by the system, but yet they can be overcome. It's a matter of time and persistence. Once an individual realizes or loses their fear about shortening that power distance, the act of engaging in civil discourse and engaging in the practice of politics becomes much, much easier. It becomes much more comfortable for the individual citizen to approach any level of government. And the more times you do it, the more you challenge yourself to be able to walk up directly to that congressman and say, "Hey, how you doing, Congressman so-and-so? I live in your district and this is what I'd like to talk to you about." Before an individual understands that they have the ability and the power to do that, they're apprehensive, they're timid, they're unsure. They don't know how to put that best foot forward. So one of the things that we're going to work on in this entire series is giving you the knowledge and the confidence to be able to use the rules of your own representative democracy to your own self-interest. And before you can do that, you have to lessen your power distance. Now, again, there are certain things in place that will always be there. The gatekeepers, the multiple offices, the time restrictions. Those are things that everybody has to deal with, regardless of whether they're an ordinary citizen or they're a $400,000 a year paid lobbyist. Okay? It doesn't matter. Everybody has to go through those barricades. So what we're going to work on is giving you the confidence to be able to remove your own personal barricades. Because the power distance between your mayor, which for most people is like this, and your senator, for which most people is like this, should be the same. They are your elected officials. They are the people that are there to represent you. They are your servants, not the other way around. There is no reason for you to feel intimidated or feel like you have a huge gap between you and the person that you elected to office. So the first step is to realize that most of the barriers in place are put in place by your own apprehensions, by your own lack of understanding, by your own unwillingness to put yourself into a zone that may be at first uncomfortable. But with practice, with education, with understanding, this is something that everybody can do, which is lessen that power distance. Once you lessen that power distance and remove that perception in your mind that that politician is unreachable, then you can engage in civil activity and civil discourse, and you can run your government, or it will run you.